Well, greetings and salutations. It is me, Robert Phoenix, and of course, the Astro Weather cat, Miss Peachy, coming to you live from the Hill Country. How is everybody? How are we today? This rather, how would you call today? There would be tumult, a bit of tumult in the air. It's interesting that on these, the 19th, the 20th, and the part of me's like a bit of a sniffle. The 19th, the 20th, and the 21st, we are dealing with some major shifts and shakeups in global power. And of course, specifically, I'm speaking about the death of the Pope, which we saw coming. We knew it was going to happen. It was a matter of not if, but when. I was pretty convinced that it was going to happen around 4/4. Other people had pegged it around 4/15. Turns out Easter Monday, and the last person that saw him was J.D. Vance, which is very interesting on a lot of levels. And I have been talking about how J.D. Vance is not just the eventual replacement for Trump, but perhaps the much more immediate replacement for Donald Trump. And, you know, my radar for Vance and Trump was somewhere around the latter part of May, middle to latter part of May. And that's when transiting Mars goes through Trump's 12th house, conjunctions Pluto. And of course, the Mars 12th house transit, which he's gone through before, is a transit of hidden enemies. Now, we know that this has shown up in Trump's chart previously, not in the 12th house, but in the 6th house, where Donald Trump has the sign of Aquarius. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was a Mars transit through Aquarius in his 6th house when Omarosa Manigault, who had been part of The Apprentice for a couple of seasons, wrote a scathing tell-all book about Donald Trump. And of course, the 6th house is the house of open enemies. Omarosa is an Aquarian, which would definitely put her in that camp. So we've seen this before in Trump's chart on the other side of the chart. But we'll definitely keep track on what's happening although with the 12th house, it's very difficult because it's the nature of the 12th house. You can't always see it coming. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about today. Just a quick preview of around 15 minutes. I will be getting to the Pope and the death of, not the death, professional death of Klaus Schwab, who is no longer in charge of the World Economic Forum. I'll be talking about those things tomorrow because I need some time to really dive in and make some, not so superficial connections to the passing of the Pope. So give me a day to kind of put all those things together. We still have plenty to talk about this is just on the 15 minutes, on the Dominique Alexander front and what happened in Frisco, Texas this last weekend, and the mounting, quote unquote, racial tension that is certainly being fomented. And I'm going to have some more receipts today over on 15 around what's going on. None of it adds up. It's all very bizarre and on so many levels. But what do you expect with the Aquarius? All right, let's do a quick roll call and let's see who we have here. Kelly B, right there. Top of the morning. Actually, she chimed in at 10:34 last night. KK, California Contrarians here. My man DJMC, Michael Sisternino, the Soul Traveler. Going to St. Finnegan on this beautiful sunny day. Excellent. Scott Jerzik, what's going on? Scott, good to see Artist Seer. Here we are, Mars Day, Aquarius Moon. May everyone seek your outer limits. I like that. Misbehaving Twos with us. Melissa Stanton, Devin Dewar, Jackie Delario. All these will be on the way to the Vermont Woods. Vermont Woods. Oh, I love Vermont. Vermont, New Hampshire. So I had a Bernie Sanders flag up there. Julianne Ross, what's going on, Julianne? Lana. Hi, Lana. Janice Phillips. She's here. The goat mama. Goat queen. Susan. Lana. 7.7 likes. Wahaha. There we go. Of course, Sandy and I have got a sit relax my show, and I was laughing. Yeah, well, that's what happens on Easter. That's what happens on Easter when the Golden State Warriors are playing. Road Trip 1981. Janine. What's happening, Janine? Let's see. Who else do we have here? Sue Leonard from way down under. Hi, Sue. Lana Winkler trying to get revved up. Yeah, I hear that. Who else? Charlie. Today's Jack Nicholson's birthday. And Glenn Campbell. That's right. Charlie Jack Nicholson is our star of the day. Believe it or not. Probably believe it. Barbara Boots. Got 2 trees and 7 bushes planted on Easter. There you go. Diane Evans. What's happening, Diane? Good to see you. Big Dave Sullivan. My man Ryan right there. I will be posting my trip details on Locals today. So all you people are wondering, where are you going to be? When are you going to be there? You will know today. Let's see. Lisa Ann White. She's with us. Hi, Lisa. Let's see what else we have here. Sharon Lewis. Hi, Sharon. Everyone, MedBed Info, Additional Press Monday. New White Hat update, almost here. We got the secret law. The secret law at work. Who else? Lynette Jardine, Jason Talbot. Greetings, Jason. How are you? Let's see. Who else we have? My man Neil Smith is in the house. Tom Jordan. Tom was a life-saving alarm clock today. Meow Meow Kitty Poop. Mora NYC. Yes, the Friday forecast. We had our buddy, the hat guy, was with us last Friday. Let's see, what do we have this Friday? I got an opening. I need to go find somebody. I need a good guest on Friday. All right, who else do we have? There she is, the lovely and talented one. Regina Lovett from the Triangle, North Carolina. Seems like a lot of folks live in that area, and that's where I will be. Yes, you can buy me a cup of coffee if you'd like to support the show. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. Carol Moore to hear some sanity today on the show. Well, sanity is hoped for. It's not always a given. Anybody else? Should we jump in? Siciliana Aphrodite. Siciliana Aphrodite. Good to see you. Rosie Rose 22. What's happening? Harry Doss 99. Hey there. What's happening, Harry? Ratchet Boo. That is such a great name. You like the hat? Oh, we're rocking the Cincinnati Reds. Black and red cap today. That's right. Amy's got a great start to her day. As Ryan says, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell. Orlando, what's happening, Orlando? Robertson Black, that's rare. It is a rare sighting. Hold on, I'll be right back. Or go away. All right, let's get going because I want to spend some time with Nicholson's chart today. It is definitely a trippy chart and very illustrative of the life and the man. It's a perfect teaching tool here. Hold on. Let me just do this. Let me do this very quickly. I guess we can use this one. Why not? Get it all set up anyway. Okay. Uh, all right, here we go. This, and this. Okay. And away we go. All right. Let's pull up now. Pull up now. And of course, with StreamYard, we always have to check our work, and our work is not there. So we have to come back again and redo our work. And that's not what I want. What do I want? I want right there. That's what I want right there. Okay. Perfecto. Perfecto mundo. One more time. Once more with feeling. There we go. All right. Now we're cooking with gas. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so here we are. Mars has not moved into an exact opposition with Pluto yet. We still have about 2 days for that, but it is coming, and it's not even quite in complete square with the sun, although it is close enough for hand grenades. And so here's the T-square we got going on, which is what we've been talking about for a while. Let's talk about this from just a personal perspective. To me, this T-square is heavy-duty frustration. Although I still like a lot of the action going on with some of the trines with Saturn, kind of late Saturn, Neptune, Mercury to Mars. So if you can deal with your frustration. So here's what I would do. Okay. to get things done, if you want to be productive, to get things done, you have to work off your energy first. So for those of you who do yard work, those of you who tend to farm animals, this is going to be natural for you anyway, because you're going to be doing that. So you get that done, you get that out of the way, you kind of discharge the static, intense, lingering energy, right? Boom, you discharge it, and then you move into what I would call a more productive phase. For those of you who don't have those things, I would suggest that you kind of work that out. Maybe it's a literal physical workout. You go to the gym, or you do whatever you do around the house in order to move that energy. Move the energy. Move the energy. You don't want this energy to get stuck, because there can be, again, some productive use of this energy. Mercury, Mars, trine. You have the thought, you make it happen. Right? There's no downtime. I mean, literally, it's like bang bang, right? Especially Mercury and Aries. It's all about now. Mars and Leo. Let's carry it out with some verve and some style, right? So if you can get through the T square, which is the log jam of the energy, there can be a high degree of productivity, a high degree of creativity. Neptune, Mars trine. Anytime you get into a Neptune, Mars trine, there is a high degree of creativity in the air. But again, in order to get through it, you may have to kind of blast through it in some ways. Now, there are creative types who need that tension. You need the creative tension in order to get to the creative part. It can be like a kind of a psychic buildup. I get it. I understand it. I deal with, creative types all the time. And I would like to think that I'm a creative type as well. So there are times when you have that energy. You have to either use it as a catalyst, or you have to work through it so you can get to the flow. And there's great flow today if you can get through the intention, the dynamic tension. And usually it's something where somebody is impeding your will. I mean, that's the nature of Mars Leo. It's the impeding of the will. It's like, well, you can't do that. Well, why can't I do that? Well, because Section 4, Code 7, Paragraph 3 states that you can't. I mean, it's kind of like that, right? I mean, we're not in Saturn territory, but we are in Sun Mars square territory, which is all about conflict. That's a conflict, fighting aspect here, right? And Pluto is the immutable force that is kind of tying these two planets together. Pluto is like this pole, and it's defining theoretically what can be done. Pluto in Aquarius is all social, and it's like breaking social barriers or breaking social boundaries in some ways. And some of it is not pretty. We're going through, like, from a collective level, like this guy that got picked up and got sent to El Salvador. And there are all these people who are clamoring for due process. And when you look into his record, I mean, he's an MS-13 guy. He's got the tats. He was transporting a group of illegals, 7 of them in a van. I mean, how much more do you kind of want on the table, right? And look, and I get due process. I think it's important. I think due process is something that has been shat on in the modern American legal system, which is in tatters anyway. But it seems to me like in this instance, due process has already kind of taken its course. And so there are all these people who are standing up for this guy and vouching for this guy. But on the other hand, there's all this other evidence, which doesn't make him a very sympathetic candidate, now does it? So, but this is Pluto, right? Because we're talking about Aquarius and rights, right? This is the big thing. It's like you're up in Alaska and you're a trawler and you throw the nets out, you get all these fish, right? And some of that fish will be really good. They'll use it for crustaceans or whatever. And some of the fish that they're going to get, probably not even going to use, too small or whatever, right? And it's like, do they really go through and pick through the big nets up in Alaska? It's, oh, well, here's a little tiny one. Let's throw that one back. No, they really don't do that. They just dump the entirety of it into like a kind of a holding tank that has some cold water in it, right? Not a ton of cold water, so they're swimming around in there, but enough to sort of keep everything chilled. So by the time they get back, into port, they can just take them out, and then boom, they've got their catch from the sea. And then the ones that are too small, I don't know what the hell they do with them. Maybe they keep fish fertilizer, who knows? But this is kind of what Pluto and Aquarius is like, and we're trying to define the law or define is it a one size fits all kind of a law, or there's special applications for the law where people are being removed because they are a quote unquote threat to society. And this is going to be a big deal with Pluto and Aquarius. And then this Mars opposition here to me feels like it's like the activation of the radical wing of the left. And in the radical wing of the left, Antifa, sort of the ghosts of Black Lives Matter. It's all kind of waiting, isn't it? It all feels like it's waiting to be reanimated. Like cicadas. They come up every 5 or 6 or 7 years or whatever it is. And so on the one hand, now you have the ICE raids, which are bringing up this whole due process thing. Meanwhile, in Frisco, Texas, you have this thing going on with Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf, and it's really stirring the racial flames, right? And so those are two areas where Antifa or the paid protesters or the radicalized wing of the left, like it just emerges all of a sudden. And now they're out in force. And they're protesting Trump, they're protesting Tesla, they're protesting, Austin Metcalf, Carmel. And I feel like this energy is just starting, right? We're seeing the reanimation of the radical left. And it's interesting because Trump has had the momentum now since January 20th. And it's like, okay, well, where are we in the momentum front? Do they have enough momentum? Are they doing enough things? Are they, able to kind of steamroll their quote unquote competition? And I'm not sure if that's really the case. And the more that they don't have the momentum, the more that the other side, theoretical other side, gets emboldened. And it's like, okay, let's fire up the protesters. And that's what it feels like. It feels like this Mars and Leo opposing Pluto, squaring the sun. This is where your protest class gets activated. But again, from a personal standpoint, if you just work through the tension, work through the frustration, discharge that energy, you can be very productive. Very, very productive. And even with Mercury here, sextile Pluto, if you are focused, and this is a critical word, it's an interesting place or state between being focused and being open to what I would call subconscious influences, because that's when your best ideas really come to you. This all of us, I've gotten hooked on podcasts for a while now. So when I go to the gym, I'm usually listening to a podcast. But back in the day when I was going to the gym and I was listening to music, I would have some of my best ideas because I wouldn't be thinking about what the person was saying. It would engage a different part of my brain. And so I'd sort of like, sort of lose myself in the process, and something would happen, something would stimulate. And I've got to get back to that process because I think it'd be much better for me. Why is this not working? I'm going to make sure that this doesn't power down. Hold on. That's weird. Let's see. Oh. So for whatever reason, that power is out of is that is something we're going to have to have there. That's a key. It's something we're going to have to explore before. There we go. Okay, we got power. All right, good. Didn't want this to crap out midstream. Anyway, what else do we have? We still have that darn Jupiter-Saturn square. Like, that is happening. Right? We're still in that. And even when Saturn moves into Aries and Jupiter moves into Cancer, we're still dealing with that Jupiter-Saturn square. That's not great for the economy. It's not great. And I think we're still downstream a bit from the effects of the tariffs, but they're gonna come trickling in. We have the moon in Aquarius today, where you can be quizzical and mystified by it all, and still retain some degree of impartiality with the moon in Aquarius. But it is squaring Uranus. This is quite disruptive in a lot of ways. So I would look at this as like, if you're a member of a place that has HOAs, be on the lookout. Today is not a good HOA day. Today's a day where you get a letter from the HOA. You know, your grass is about 3/4 of an inch higher than it should be. You'll need to cut that. But this is actually a bit of a disturbing square. People want action. This is an action day. This is an action oriented. I mean, look at, even with coming in here with the moon, the sextile with Chiron. People want action, kind of at all costs. Jupiter moon trine. And then the square with Uranus is, be careful what kind of action you want, because you'll get it. You will definitely get it, and it will be something you'll have to adjust with. This is one of those days. Also, we want to look at the Earth and the seismic activity of the Earth. Anytime you get a moon square to Uranus, and you see the waves here, the waves of Aquarius. And it reminds me of the early kind of sightings of explorers looking at Los Angeles, from the ocean. People like Cortez and Drake, these people that were like cruising the Southern California coastline. Literally, they could see, it was almost as if the coastline had, the land was almost like moving in waves, because they were actually witnessing earthquakes in Southern California. There's notes on this, and it was what elicited the feeling of like angels dancing, hence Los Angeles. So whenever we look at Aquarius, this idea of not just the waves in the ocean, but waves in the land, kind of moving up and down and shifting, are prevalent. We have this moon Uranus square going on here. So this is prime earthquake territory right here. And what do we got, 20 to 25? So maybe in about 5 hours or so. By and large, I think that the energies today are very disruptive. And if you can just work through it, if you can just work through the tension, discharge the tension, if you can be productive. There's a lot of pride on hand with Mars and Leo. A lot of pride. People are very prideful about who they are, where they come from, their ethnography, whatever. It's like, stand up and be counted with Mars and Leo. And, it feels to me like we need some kind of oneness or unity, but we've just been in bifurcation mode with Jupiter in Gemini and the fractionality of everything. Everything got split after, here in this country, everything got split after the the great eclipse in 2017, and then it got split again with the big eclipse in 2024. So now everything is fractionalized. Everything is cut into fourths. So, I mean, and we've been seeing that frequently, especially in the political sense. We got a pretty good distribution of elements today: fire, earth, air, water. So it's not like any of them are terribly lacking. I guess in terms of earth, that's probably the one where it's like kind of minor. Well, we've got the sun, we have Uranus, but everything else is not going to be major earth. So, and even the earth that we do have is a little bit volatile, just slightly volatile. Okay, so again, I think what you want to do is you want to burn off the tension, and then be productive, clear your mind, and be creative and imaginative with a clear mind. I think that's really the prescription for the day. And try to watch out for other people trying to clear their shit. And watch out for people trying to win at all costs. This, by the way, also is a warning for all you people who are on the road. You know how some people just want to win on the road, whether it's a lane, whether it's a stop sign. Be very conscious and aware of people trying to win at all costs. Okay, let me do this. Put this up here. It's our start of the day. So we'll run the old banner here. And let's do our start of the day. Our True Hemp Science star of the day is none other than Jack Nicholson. And of course, True Hemp Science is your one-stop shop for all things CBD. All you got to do is go there, spend $100 or more, type in 15MINS. You will get a goodie bag along with your order, which is always a very nice thing. It's like an order within an order. It's like your stocking stuffer at Christmas. Spend $150 more, you'll get free shipping, and there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. If for whatever reason, in week 2, you're not into it, send it back. You'll get your money back. But it's very rare. I've actually asked Chris, how often this happens. He says it's happened, but it's a rare occurrence. So there you go, truehempscience.com, 15MINS is your code. Go get some of the best CBD products that you can find on the internet and off, for that matter. All right, let's talk Nicholson. What an interesting character, huh? Now, this picture that you're seeing here is from a Look magazine article where they went into the home of Jack Nicholson. And it was around 1969, if I'm not mistaken. And Nicholson is about to blow up. He's about to become a really big star. And you can see that there's this irreverence in the photo. There's a whole series of photos in this shoot. And in his right hand, he's got a joint. And then he's got his headphones on. He's listening to, who knows, the Beatles or the Byrds or whomever, right? And he's got that cocky Jack Nicholson sort of look about him. Now, what's interesting about Nicholson is he was born in Neptune, New Jersey. And I think it's fitting because his origin story is foggy at best. So why don't we drop into his origin story? Jack Nicholson was raised in New Jersey. I think it was near but Asbury Park or right around there. Like it was there was a time when New Jersey, especially around like the amusement parks, was kind of a big entertainment hub as an extension of New York City. And there were a lot of clubs and theaters in New Jersey. And Jack Nicholson's mother, who's quite young, I believe 18 years old, 17 or 18, was a showgirl. And he came from a fairly large family. And his mother, June, got pregnant. Now, there's potentially two men that might be Jack Nicholson's father. One is a guy by the name of Joseph Curchillo, and there's another guy who went by the name of Earl King. That's not his real last name. I forget he was, what was he, like Slovenian or something. I don't think this Joseph Curchillo guy is Nicholson's father. I think it's this other guy, Earl King. You don't see any pictures of him. But when you look at the Joseph Curchillo guy, he doesn't really look like Nicholson. So what's interesting, again, it's this kind of foggy Neptunian beginning to his life, because he's raised as his grandmother is his mother, and his grandfather is his father, and his birth mother is his sister. So here we see the moon, which is the mother, in the third house, which is what? Mother as sister, or sister as mother. And if you have moon in the third house, there's a good chance that your mother was more like a big sister, whether you're male or female. I mean, that's the nature of the moon in the third house. Occasionally, you, as an older sibling, may be in charge of also being mother to your own siblings. So this is the moon in the third house. So we know this, right? We know this for a fact. Nicholson's sister was his mother. Doesn't find out till he's 37 years old. And then there are two guys who are supposedly the candidates, and he has no interest in finding out who they are. Okay. So this is where his chart really starts down here. Now, when you, again, look at his origin story, he's surrounded by all these women. I believe his grandmother owned a beauty parlor. So Nicholson had a bunch of sisters. They all doted over him because they were all older than he was, which is, again, kind of odd, right? And it's the fact that his sister has him as a child. And so I don't know who knew what in the family. I'm sure they all knew that that was the secret, right? So you have Venus up here at the top of the chart, even though it's in the 10th house, and he's doted on by women. Like he's sort of the little Lord Fauntleroy of the household, whether it's at the beauty salon, oh, Jackie this, Jackie that, right? So he gets a ton of attention, which he is able to embody and kind of integrate in his relationships with other women, which are, how would I say this? Successful on Jack Nicholson's terms, right? Venus and Aries, he's going to be with whoever he wants to be with. And I think he only has one true marriage, which happens early in the 60s, and they're divorced. And he has a string of relationships, some of which last longer than others, particularly Angelica Houston, but he's not somebody who is given to monogamy. So we have the Sun-Venus conjunction. This is a man of great appetites, right? This is a man who is carnal. Sun-Pluto square, Sun-Jupiter square, Venus-Jupiter square, Venus-Pluto square. There's a word for Jack Nicholson, and it's more. Right? This is somebody who did not say no to the delicacies of life that were served up to him. And, he has a very, cocky nature. This is one of the things that kind of set him apart from a lot of other, he had that kind of smirk, right? So this is somebody in some ways who knows, this was always the thing about Nicholson. Even like when you hear interviews, like, there'll be people who will talk about Nicholson when they're on set. And he's cool and everything, but he'll always remind the other actor that he's got, more Oscars than they have, like facial hair or something like that, right? Jack possessed a high degree of self-awareness. Not always, he was funny, but not always, I wouldn't call him humble. Let's put it that way. Now, what's interesting here about Pluto, let's talk a little bit about Pluto. I think Pluto really plays a huge role in Nicholson's cinematic arc. It's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which puts Nicholson really squarely on the map. He'd done a bunch of indie films. He'd done Five Easy Pieces. He'd done Easy Rider, a bunch of Roger Corman stuff. But it's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which puts him, on the marquee as kind of an A-list actor. And for me, that's Pluto, right? That's Pluto in the 12th house, because he's dealing with what? A 12th house environment. He's dealing with, a mental institution, which is very 12th housey. And it is his rebelliousness, with Nurse Ratched and the system. And he becomes this kind of symbolic character. But he doesn't meet a good end in the movie. In the end of the movie, Nurse Ratched has her way with Jack Nicholson. But it's Pluto here. Randall McMurtry is the character. It's, and also you could make a case in some ways that Pluto is also very much like The Shining. Because again, it's a 12th house environment. Nobody's there. It's a giant inn during the winter where it's shut down and impassable. And they need a caretaker. Again, very Pluto, 12th housey. So some of his best movies have had these sort of Plutonian elements involved. The Last Detail, where he takes Randy McQuaid off to a brig and has a 3-day weekend. Like they decide that they're going to give this, dorky kid a taste of life. Again, very Pluto 12th house. He's delivering him to a jail. So Pluto is a very interesting element in Nicholson's cinematic, oeuvre, as they say. But it also plays a role in his home, right? Because Cancer represents the home. And he's also noted for Roman Polanski using his hot tub to get into hot water with a minor. So again, very Plutonian, 12th house, Cancerian. And we can see here Vesta, which does represent sort of the end condition or the end times of the chart. And if you've seen Nicholson lately, he looks horrible. He looks really bad, really, really bad. And you can see where his end game is going. It is headed towards complete isolation and probably Alzheimer's, right? So again, this is a very interesting chart. He's got basically a Star of David. Look at that, 2 interlocking grand trines, mystic rectangle. This is the chart of somebody who I would say is highly successful. And even beyond highly successful, something very powerful. This is the chart of a powerful individual. You have the grand trine, which is ascending towards heaven, and then you have the grand trine, which is moving down towards earth and interlocking. This is a really fascinating chart. Mars down here in the 5th house, sports, pastimes, loves the Lakers. Questionable team to root for, at least now, by the way. Before, maybe not so bad. But he's got that Mars, Saturn, Mars, Pluto trine, true node in the 5th house. Again, Sagittarius, also connected to acting. So he was a very active actor, took on lots of roles. And physical. Jack Nicholson is a very physical character. You can get that with Taurus, but also with Mars and Sagittarius and the Mars-Saturn triangle. And this is somebody with, I would say, sexual proclivities, probably somebody who would have a lot of endurance in the bedroom, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the Mars-Saturn triangle, Mars-Pluto triangle. What's also interesting about Nicholson? He never really complained about any of the directors that he worked for. He liked Stanley Kubrick, right? He didn't think doing all those takes was terrible. He's got a Mars-Saturn trine. Why not? Right? He's a Leo rising. If anything, Jack's lack of hair and his Leo rising kind of betrayed him. But it never really, I believe, ultimately stopped him from being a true Leo rising. Again, when you look at that Chiron and that South Node, in Gemini, to me, this was very cuckoo's nesty as well. All about questioning sanity. And there's a lot of that in Nicholson's sort of filmography, like 5 Easy Pieces. His sanity's kind of in question. Batman as the Joker. I mean, he plays an insane character. He's the Joker. And I think, I don't know, it's hard to rate who's better as the Joker than he or Heath Ledger. Nicholson plays it more for laughs, and he's funny and he's scary at the same time. He's a great Joker. Heath Ledger he's dark. And Nicholson warned Heath Ledger about playing the Joker. He said, better be careful. Better be careful. Sometimes the character doesn't leave you. So we were out to lunch on Saturday, and I said over lunch, I said, I think Jack Nicholson's going to die soon. And it just popped into my brain. And I think he will. He's 88, past 88. He's gone past this Pluto opposition. And usually that's good for another, I don't know, sometimes up to 10 years. But if you saw what Jack Nicholson looked like now, you would not give him 10 more years. And he hasn't really been seen in a reasonable public space since 2022, which was the last Laker game that he showed up at. There was a recent photo of him from a balcony, and he looks horrible. Really, really horrible. Like, just gone to pot horrible. So Yeah, I think Jack's on the clock here. The other thing too with Saturn, you get the Saturn Moon opposition, and he was born in New Jersey, and then he winds up eventually, going to um, Los Angeles, and he went to high school in Los Angeles. He went to part of his high school in L.A., not all of it, but part of it. And I think he did. I have to remind myself of this because he did go to his 50th year reunion in New Jersey at the high school he went to, Manapakwa or something like that. But to me, Saturn in the ninth house is definitely traveling to Los Angeles, which is where he will learn his trade and craft and professions. And ultimately, it's where he will find out the disparity between his father and his mother. Very interesting. You can just tell, the guy's got a superpower chart. He's squeezed just about everything he can out of this life, and he doesn't have a lot left. And I would say that Nicholson probably got as much as he could out of this thing, although the end game is certainly not very pretty. So there you go. That's it for the show today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found something of merit in today's weather, and Jack Nicholson as a kind of a teaching tool, learning tool when it comes to astrology. Anyway, thanks for all your support. Thank you for being here. You know the drill. Use your head. Oh, no, that was the old drill. We're in a new drill now. The new drill is take care of yourselves, treat each other well. God bless. Love you all. Robert Phoenix signing off. Bye for now. Come meet us over on Rumble for today's 15 minutes. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for the weather.